I'm also doing it in my pajamas. Now, a lot of us are at home, we're slouching around, people are getting quite demotivated at the moment, and that's why we're seeing so much for us to do online. But if you are feeling quite demotivated, you don't want to put a bra on, you don't really want to get out of your pajamas, and you want to do something fairly early before you eat your breakfast, yoga is quite a good thing to do with an empty stomach. It then allows us to engage something called the Uddiyana Bandha, which is part of your abdominal wall process. And because of that, if you've got any food in your stomach, it's quite a difficult thing to do. So what I also find when you come to yoga is people are just, they have this beautiful mat laid out, they have all their props around them, and they're not really explaining what you might need for a yoga practice. So we're just going to start with the setup of what you might need. Now I've got a couple of blocks here, which I already had. Blocks are good to sit up on because they're a very tough surface. So if you haven't got blocks are really good. So anything big, anything that you might not be using. Encyclopedia, I wouldn't say a Bible, you never know what retort you might get. But something of that nature, so something solid, and so you can sit up tall on it. Some people might refer to a yoga belt. Now a yoga belt has a looping here for you to use a metal looping. If you haven't got a belt, you can use anything around the house, like a strap from a dressing gown, or you can use a towel if it's long enough. Anything that loops around the foot so that you're able to provide some tension there, some torsion. I've also got some pillows off the sofa because one, my dog doesn't like lying on them, so they're the perfect size really to be able to build up and use as props as and when you need to. Because what will happen is, as soon as you start to try and sit in a cross-legged position, your hips will drop below your knees, and we need our hips to be higher than the knees. If you think about things like car seats, sitting on the loo, sitting on a bed even, often our hips drop below our knees, and that causes strain in the lower back. So when we're setting up here, we're going to start with some breathing exercises, which is generally how you start in yoga. You start by coming back to the breath and focusing on the breath, but also to calm the body. If you've been doing anything beforehand, you need to arrive into the space. So we've got a yoga mat here. Obviously there's lots of different types of yoga mats, and the most ideal surface for a yoga mat would be a wooden floor. However, I've got a carpet here. It's a little bit more difficult to balance on a carpet. That's my excuse anyway. So we're going to have a couple of bricks here, and I'm going to place this pillow on the top. So there's quite a bit of height there for me to be able to sit comfortably. Are you sitting comfortably? That's the question. Okay. So in yoga, we come into a cross-legged position. Quite often, the knees are at different heights, depending on the flexibility of the hips. So if you naturally cross your left over right, it's sometimes a good idea to try and do the opposite. A bit like if you've ever tried to brush your teeth with the other hand. We are routinely drawn to certain things, like using our right or left hands, but as soon as you can't use that hand, you very quickly learn with the other hand what to do. So it's a good habit to get into, is to trick the mind a little bit. Okay, so making sure everything is away from the mat that you don't need right now. It's always good to almost see the mat as a bit of an island, a cocoon, your safe place. What I've also got here is some massage oil. Because it's a morning practice, I'm just going to show you a little bit of neck massage. So I've got a rose oil here. Rose is one of my favourite smells. Rose is a really nourishing essential oil, but equally you could use anything you've got around the house. So you could use something like olive oil, vegetable oil, anything with an oil-based baby oil, if you could stand the smell. What I do find is it's nicer to work with something that you like the smell of. So if you don't want to smell like a chip pan, you might not use vegetable oil, but if that's all you've got, you just want something with a lubricant in it. And things like moisturizers haven't got that lubrication, they soak into the skin a bit too much. For these purposes though, we're just going to be using the exposed area around the neck, up through into the back of the neck here. So you just need something that's slightly slippery, I would say. The key is in the name, I guess, with oil. So before we do our breathing practice, we'll just place a little bit of oil onto the fingertips, rubbing them together, and just placing that around the neck. What we want to do is get into that occipital ridge. And the occipital ridge is where the muscles of the neck meet the skull. So they come from the back of the ear all the way around, right up into the hairline. So in some people's hairline, it's really quite high. So I need a little bit more there. I'm going to put it on my palm surface. Getting that oil right into here. So you can use opposite hands, especially into the front of the neck. Don't be worried about moving quite with a lot of pressure here into that side of the neck. As long as you're avoiding the windpipe is the important instruction here. So you're coming up right to where the muscles join. You might find that you get over some quite lumpy bits there. Now these can just be adhesions in the muscle, but they do get really sore on people. And coming all the way out to where your upper traps are, the muscles at the top of your shoulders. You want to come till you meet the bony prominence here. So just using the fingertips here with the opposite hand, and then even having a slight elongation in the neck. So the front of the neck, where the whiplash muscles are here, can get really, really tight. Quite often we can sleep in a strange position. Because if we were conscious in the day, we wouldn't put ourselves in such a difficult position, but in our sleep, we really can. So sometimes people will wake up with neck aches and creaks, so it's quite a nice thing to do in the morning. I'm just using that elbow to move that hand further around if I don't feel like I've got that flexibility. Now the difficult thing here is putting a lot of pressure through your own body. It's much easier for someone else to do it for you. But then obviously you then haven't got the control of how much that pressure is. 6 and 2 3s really. So really squeezing into that upper traps here, coming up into the neck, back of the ear. That's where the jaw attaches. So if you clench your teeth, grind your teeth in the night, someone tells you you do, you might get quite tight here, and coming right back, working into the occipitals. You can then turn to use the thumbs, hands around the back of the head. Just using little circular movements there. Using the breath. Getting right into here. Really is an area we don't work on very much. And if we're at a computer a lot, if you were texting, the chin tends to jut forward and we're looking down, and it's hanging the weight of the head on that structure. So the head weighs about 10% of our own body weight. So it really is quite a heavy structure to be throwing around, you know, putting you in a difficult position. Really nice. Taking some deep breaths. Staying here where I'm finding a bit of a sore spot. Just desensitizing the muscle. If you move too quickly over a muscle, it can't get used to that pressure. The Golgi tendons which surround the muscle, they relax when you put pressure through them and you stay there. You're just using the inhale and the exhale here. Then if that starts to ease off, we'll come a little bit further round
You really don't have to move very far here. What people tend to do with massage is make these big broad movements. But round here with your thumbs, you just feel into those bits that are sore. Mine are the bits just below the ears. I do find that you hold a lot of tension here when you're concentrating. I've been doing some crazy website work yesterday. That all starts to come up into the neck and the shoulders. If you feel like your shoulders are coming up near your ears, that's when you need this elongation in the neck. Pressure into the back of the head. Lovely. So if you just want to start with that and then start the practice, or start the warm-ups, what you would call the warm-ups for yoga, you can do. Because we've been sat in this position quite a while, you might want to cross the legs the other way. You may want the legs out in front of you. You might want to adjust the height. It's a very straight position for the spine to be like this. So for some spines, the muscles surrounding the spine might start to quiver or get tired at this point. We shouldn't expect our bodies to just suddenly do something for a long period of time. So in isolation, when people are going out exercising, you might have suddenly found this joy for running, the freedom, the sense of freedom that running gives you. But then you might try and do that every day. Now the body doesn't like doing something so routinely. Maybe not. It does like routine, but it doesn't like not having rest. So if you imagine someone like a ballet dancer, they might dance 6 days a week. Their body isn't getting that rest in between. So the dancer might force the body into trying to rest by doing things like maybe swimming, doing an alternative exercise, going in the sauna, solarium, that kind of thing. Just trying to get the body almost to rest unnaturally, really. So things like massage, rest and relaxation, warming and cooling the body can speed up that process if we haven't got the time to rest. So what I would say is if you can leave a couple of days in between doing the same form of exercise, it really does let the body regenerate. So coming into this comfortable seated position, I say comfortable, we call it easy pose, but it's not so easy, is it, for some people? Look at that knee floating up. So we try not to have any judgment here. Try not to judge that knee. And we're coming back to focusing on our breath, gently closing the eyes. Or if the mind starts to wander, starting to make the inhale and the exhale a bit longer, a bit deeper, and in essence a bit louder. So the breath might be very in the chest at first. We're trying to create a bit more space within the body by breathing into the belly, almost making like a big Buddha belly here. That's the inhale. On the exhale, drawing that Buddha belly back towards the spine. So belly breathing is a very good way to come back to a sense of your body. Breathing into the base of your spine here. Into the part of the body that's grounding down through the floor. The breath then starts to come up, further up the spine through the chest and the collarbones. On the inhale, and exhale. So the body might start to ripple slightly when you're focusing that breath. Slight back bend here at the top. Shoulders come back and exhale. The air comes out of the body. It's just a different intention here. They call it 3-part breathing. So breathing in through the belly, the chest, the collarbones, and all the way out. The big thing to focus here on is breathing out for longer than you breathe in. So if you breathe in for 4, you breathe out for 6. In for 4, out for 6. In for 4, and out for 6. Really gives the mind something to focus on. And focusing on the exhale more than the inhale will calm the breath, calm the body down. So belly breathing, 3-part breathing, is part of pranayama, which is the breathing process in yoga. So you can add layers onto that with different breathing exercises that people do, either to warm up the body or to focus the mind more. Essentially, if you can sit and breathe and focus on the breath and try to bat away the thoughts that might be coming in, focusing on the exhale more than the inhale. Or just observing what's happening with the breath. Is there any shortness somewhere on the inhale or the exhale? You find it more difficult. You breathing through one nostril or the other. So to focus on the breath is quite a difficult task, really. Because you have got other thoughts going on and other things happening in the house. You know, you don't have this silent outside, you know, the outdoors aren't silent. Birds might be tweeting, things might be banging and crashing around, but to come back to your body and focus on the breath is what maintains stillness. That's why people will then layer it with giving you a task to do, which will then, you know, if you're using hand gestures and things, it will then make you focus on what you're actually doing rather than just focusing on the breath, which might be quite a difficult task. So people might get you to do Kapalabhati breath, which is breath of fire, where you draw the navel towards the spine and breathing sharply out of your nose. So then you can't help but focus on what you're doing. It's almost like you're challenging the body, heating things up within the body, so the attention has to go there. And then you can also do alternate nostril breathing. So bringing your thumb and first finger together into Chin Mudra, placing that hand on the back of the knee. And with the other hand, you're taking the peace fingers here and folding them in. So you're extending the thumb, the ring finger and the little finger, placing the thumb over the right nostril and breathing out and in through the left nostril. After the inhale, you're then closing the left nostril, breathing out through the right nostril. And in, closing that nostril, breathing out through the left. Closing the nostril, breathing out through the right. I can do this in 2 ways. You can either keep going with the breath so that you're alternately breathing out and in through the right and left nostril, or at the top of the inhale of the right, you can retain the breath and then breathe out through the left. Now, if you're not used to holding your breath, it can make you panic slightly. It does me. I was a swimmer in my youth, and to be able to like hold my breath slightly makes me panic if I'm getting out of breath. I think that's only natural in water. But if I've ever gone back to, as an adult, to swim, if someone's asked me to breathe, say, more than anything but a 3 count on crawl, it does make me, come up into here. So it's about trying to calm the mind with what's comfortable for you. So if you don't like retaining the breath and then breathing out, you just stay with the alternate nostril breathing. Now, this is something that I do in the car, and it sounds really strange, but if I'm driving somewhere and I can get quite tight through the neck when I'm driving, almost that concentrating, your hands are out here, so it's all up into the upper shoulders. If I feel myself doing that, I have one hand on the wheel and I use this hand then to alternate nostril breathe. Now, it does make me really be able to focus or to calm down. If I'm, if you're in traffic or you're rushing to get somewhere, the heart rate's slightly elevated, you're in sort of a cortisol stress response. So what you want to do is calm the body down. It does really help me when I'm driving. Maybe not a tip to pass on to too many other people. So that's the breathing practice. So the breathing practice might take 5-10 minutes within a class, depending on how long the class is. Depending how comfortable you are. You would then move on to what is called a warm-up sequence. Now, in any yoga practice or session, you wouldn't just suddenly jump into poses which require a lot of flexibility, and that's why you do the warm-up poses. Now, depending on the type of yoga, if you've gone to a slower class or something with a name like Hatha, or I guess people might give it different names like a stretchy class, but Hatha is the foundation of all yoga. So yoga started with Hatha. So the idea of Hatha is that you warm the body up before you can get to any peak poses, which are things like, which have got a lot of flexibility. And then you would calm the body down by doing relaxation poses at the end. So depending on what your association is with yoga, depending on what style of yoga would suit you, which is the difficult bit of finding the style that suits you and often the teacher that suits you. What I would say, if you're more drawn to things like with an energetic compound, or things like running, cycling, swimming, you might want a faster practice, something that challenges the body more. You might think you want that more. I was a swimmer in my youth, and I used to go to yoga on a Friday to always sort out all the tightness in my body from everything that I'd done that week. As I got older, I was drawn to a slower practice. My body needed to rest more. And it wasn't until I went to a restorative class that I realised that's what my body actually needed. So my personality and my drive and motivation might have wanted a faster practice, but my body actually craved the restorative or yin style classes, they call them. So, but to warm the body up and to start to move the body, we will do some warm-up techniques. So from the seated position, we're not going to move too far too quickly. So breathing in, arms come to the ceiling, breathing out, right hand comes down, left hand towards the ceiling. So the neck here is in a neutral position. We're not going to drop the neck too much unless we feel the need to open out into the neck. We're breathing in, breathing out, bending that right elbow slightly, turning those ribs towards the ceiling. You can even start to look up if that's comfortable on your neck. Breathing in and breathing out. Really feeling that side stretch, but pinning that left hip down. Don't let that left hip draw up. Finding some space in the side body. Get very stationary here. Breathing in, palms come up. Breathing out, over to the other side. Creating space in the side here. Dropping the elbow down on the left. Breathing in and breathing out. If you start to feel quite uncomfortable here, we're just going to take away, slowly coming forward, to take away those props from behind us. And placing them in a safe place by the side of the mat. So coming into tabletop position, you might have heard of cat and cow here. So making sure the hips are over the knees, the wrists back on the shoulders. By doing that, you then have a stable base. So if ever you're not stacked, you can't put too much pressure through those joints. So breathing in, tailbone comes up, head slightly forward. Not too much strain in the neck here. And exhaling, rolling through the spine, pressing towards the ceiling, tailbone down. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhale and exhale. Really drawing the stomach up and in. Or coming to this flat back position. Taking the knees slightly further apart towards the edge of the mat, bringing the toes in. Hands can come forward as you rest the hips back into child's pose. Now, child's pose, you can have the hands forward to press back, pressing the hips down towards the floor, or you can have them resting with a bent elbow or down by your side. Making sure the forehead is on the floor, not the top of the head. So really relaxing here in your favourite arm position, drawing the tailbone down towards the back body. If that's not comfortable for you, placing a pillow behind the knees to create some space. It might not be an accessible thing to do for people. So coming back up, we're going to move through a down dog. Now placing the hands about 6 inches in front of where you have them. Spreading the fingers wide and putting pressure through all corners of the hands. Making sure the thumb is grounded. Turning the toes under and pressing your hips up and back into downward dog. Relaxing the head down. Now here you feel this elongation on the back line of the body. Now the posterior chain of the body is all interconnected. From your calves, your hamstrings, your glutes, your lower back, your upper back, up to the back of your head. Really pushing the hips up here. If you need to have a slight bend in your knee, please do so. Making sure the upper arm bones are rotating inwards. Pushing through, elevating in the shoulder blades. Micro bend in the knee, or legs are straight. Making sure there's not too much space between the hands and the feet. What happens is that you start to drop in the back then. So you want to have slight torsion and tension through the shoulders. Be able to protect the arms, protect the elbows even, especially if you're hypermobile in any joints. Breathing in, breathing out. On the inhale, we're going to walk slightly in. Feet are at hip distance apart and just ragdoll down. You can sway from side to side, creating some length in the hamstrings, bending, extending and flexing the knee there. Just using the weight of your head, the weight of your shoulders to bring you further down. It's a really nice stretch at the end of the day. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, coming up to standing. Okay, so coming to the front of the mat, we're going to move through one sun salutation. Now, sun salutations are another warm-up technique from a standing position. So if we've been sitting and moving the body slightly and getting all this, the joints lubricated in the spine, we need to make sure that the pelvis is lubricated before we do anything any more energetic with the legs. So hands come to the side of the body. Breathing in, arms come up to the ceiling, fingers touching. Exhale, floating down. Inhale, come to a halfway lift, hands are on the shins. Exhaling, coming back to our mat into a plank position. Now dropping the knees here. Exhaling, our chest, chin and knees coming to the floor. Inhaling, slight cobra here. Or what you can take is upward dog, which is knees off the floor in a straight leg position. Coming back into our downward dog. Inhale, coming to the front of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift, forward fold, exhale. And coming all the way up, hands to the ceiling, Samastitihi. So that is moving through your sun salutation. I only like to do sun salutations in the morning. If I go to a class and they're put into an evening class, the idea of saluting the sun in the evening just doesn't do it for me. The body's often too tired, especially if I'm massaging quite a lot. So that's your sun salutation. You might then come into some standing poses, which you're holding. This then allows the body to gain some strength. So yoga is to do with flexibility and strength. So at the moment, we're warming up the body, allowing it to get strong. We'll do some flexibility poses, and then we'll have a nice splat on the mat. So you might come into warrior pose. So warrior, you're coming with the back foot should be at 70 degrees. The front knee is bent, and it's like you're on skis here. Imagine the skis are coming parallel. The left hip turns forward as the front knee bends. Inhaling, arms up. Exhaling, dropping forward with that knee, making sure it's not coming further over the ankle. Joints are stacked. That left hip's drawing forward to create square hips. Grounding that back foot into the floor. The long edge wants to ground down. Inhaling, coming up to straight legs. Paralleling the arms. Shifting the back foot slightly further back. Dropping down into the knee. Warrior two. Gazes along the fingers. Making sure that arm isn't coming round too far. It's a very powerful pose, warrior two. Standing in our strength. Grounding down through the feet. Inhaling, coming up. Exhale, straight legs. Left hand or back hand comes down the leg. Inhaling towards the ceiling. Reverse warrior. Gaze is towards the sky, or looking down if it's not comfortable on your neck. Inhaling. Exhale, coming forward into triangle pose. Now, classically, you'd reach your fingers forward, placing them on the shin. Sometimes you don't get very far because of this slight impingement in the hips. So what you can do here is turn that left hip slightly, making sure this right hip is drawing back. So we're having this internal and external rotation of the thighs here. hand can come slightly further down. So come to where it's comfortable for you. It might be the shin, the floor. You might want that up, back arm back and looking up. Last full breath here. Inhale. Coming up. Creeping up. Front foot forward. Bending the elbow. Elbow comes to the knee. Arm over by the ear. Side stretch. Coming up on the inhale and stepping back to the front of the mat. Okay, so we'll do that all on the other side. Breathing in. Exhale, right foot comes back. Spinning 70 degrees to the back of the mat. Inhale, warrior one. Make sure that back knee isn't falling forward. Creating some tension through the outside of the foot. And the exhale, dropping through the front knee. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, gathering arms up. Exhale, coming back down. Inhale, triangle pose. Inhale, coming up. Front knee bends. Side angle. Breathing in and coming to the front of the mat. So that's our standing sequence. Now you might then want to come down to a seated sequence. So bring yourself down, whichever way you're comfortable with. Coming into a forward fold here. So what we don't want to do is slump in the spine. We want to create a length through the lower back before we come forward, placing our hands to the outside of the legs, the shins, or even clasping the feet or the toes. What we want to make sure is that you're hinging from the hips here. You really are pushing forward before you then relax. Head is the last thing that comes down. We want to be quite gentle on the lower back. Think of tipping the hips forward, creating a length before you relax. Breathing in and coming back to a counter pose for the forward bend. Now in yoga we do a lot of poses where we go forward and back to be able to get range in the front and the back of the body. Also, if you're sitting down doing too much forward folding, so if the postures seem to be all going that way, make sure you do counteract that. My back especially doesn't like all, like 5 forward bend positions in a row. So I need to counteract that with coming backwards. So either lying down, relaxing the back into the floor, or coming into feet on the floor, pushing through the hips. You can see how much stretch you get through the shoulders there with your hands facing forward. So hands can face forward or backwards. Chin is tucked. So you're not throwing the neck back. compromising the small neck bones. For the last breath here, inhale and exhale. So coming to a twist before we relax onto the floor. So bringing your knee, bending your knee, bringing your foot to the floor. Foot can come near the inner thigh or fist widths apart from that thigh. So breathing in, using the left elbow to hook the knee, hand comes behind, breathing in, breathing out. Compressing the belly here into the knee, onto the thigh. Now, the neck does strive to get into a certain position here. So make sure your body is in that position, but your neck is soft. So you may bring your gaze and your head back to the front here, focusing on the breath. Straight leg, foot is flexed. So, from the other side, bringing the left knee up, fist widths apart from the inner thigh. Breathing in, long straight spine. Breathing out, twisting to that left side. Foot is flexed on the floor. So see how your mind wants to go further. You're thinking strive, strive, strive. Actually, this is more about what's comfortable for your back in an elongated straight position. So we don't want to be slumping in the spine to be able to get further round. We want to be twisting from the thoracic spine to the mid spine, where we all get so tight. And computers, driving, none of us move very much from the thoracic spine. So using the exhale, twisting further round, inhaling, coming back to center. So we're going to come to our Shavasana pose now, a lot of people's favorite pose. Now Shavasana is also called corpse pose in that you don't move within that posture. So it might be that the body starts to cool down because it basically is the cool down for exercise. So you've been moving the body, you've been stretching the body, now you want to relax the body. So the way you do that is you may put a bolster or something, a pillow or something raised underneath your knees. That then allows your body into a neutral position. And what I mean by that on the back is so that the hips and the back can relax into the floor. So I've got actually a massage bolster here that I use wrapped in a towel. But placing my knees or my thighs onto that, coming back, legs are spread to the edge of the mat. Hands can come right out to the side. By placing the head down, you may feel like you need something slightly raised to be able to tuck the chin. If not, just coming, laying your body down to the floor. Now the body will automatically starts to relax when the muscles are in contact like this. It's especially good for your back to lay flat like this. It means none of those back muscles can contract. And all the muscles that you've been using just by sitting at the start, using throughout the practice, twisting, warming up, they need to have that contact to relax. So going back to thinking about the breath here, we want to let go of any structure or judgment we've got of the breath. A good way to do that is to breathe in, breathe out through the mouth. So blowing that air through the mouth. Sometimes we call this lion's breath. And with lion's breath, we breathe in. When you breathe out, poking out the tongue, scrunching up the face, and really letting the air out. It's a good way to get rid of any anger or tension. Someone might be quite shocked if you did that in the street, but needs must. So sometimes it's very hard for us to relax in this position because we're just thinking, right, body, relax. Brain isn't used to this. So what we start to do is something called auto-suggestion. So we think of different parts of the body, doing like a body scan to be able to relax these different parts. We'll say to ourselves, I'm relaxing my legs. My legs are relaxed. I'm relaxing my arms. My arms are relaxed. I'm relaxing my head. My head is relaxed. I'm relaxing my shoulders. My shoulders are relaxed. My face. I'm relaxing my face. My face is relaxed. So using that auto-suggestion, you may feel yourself dropping further into the mat. Things are time to let go. Now to bring some awareness back to the body, we start to rub our fingertips lightly together. Toes can wiggle. And sometimes it's quite difficult to even think about moving here. If we bring that subtlety into the fingertips, into the toes, it's suggesting that we're going to start moving. Elbows can bend. Just using that sensation into the fingers. That light sensation. Start to scrunch your hands. Open and scrunch. My favourite saying is, I am here. It's a great thing to repeat to yourself here. I am here. Yes, I am. I like to circle those wrists. Just bring some movement into the fingers, starting to come into the arms. Arms can come ahead if you wish, overhead, relaxing onto the floor. Some people like to move quicker than others, but for some this position can be so luxurious you want to stay here a bit longer. Bringing your hands to your lower lungs, feeling the warmth of the hands, expanding into them. To move your knees into a comfortable position, or bring the knee up and cross the midline, bring my foot onto the floor or onto the bolster. Doing the same with the other. So bringing your knee through the midline, bending up, but crossing the midline of the body. puts less pressure through your lower back. Knees can come to chest if you wish. If you want to give a little rock around onto the lower back here. Real nice. The arm comes back so that you're creating a pillow for yourself on the upper arm. So rolling over here. Your head then sits almost just above the armpit. Not feeling like you're dropping the head at all. Now, in order to get up from this position, you have to use quite a lot of muscles if you were to just throw yourself up. So dropping the neck and the head, using the front hand to push you up, allowing the neck and the head to be the last thing that comes up. And coming back to our seated position as we began. So you may want some height here, moving that out of the way. So coming to some slight height here. Coming with closing our eyes. So we sit here, feeling the reverberation of the actions and the movements that we've just done. Bring stillness to the body. Coming back to the breath. Inhale, exhale, hands come to Anjalina Mudra to heart center. Thumb touching the breastbone, the sternum. Making sure there's length in the back of the neck. Not projecting forward to what may come. What we have to do. The straight spine and neck. Stay in the present moment. May the goodness in me see and recognize the goodness in you. Bringing fingertips to your forehead, breathing in, breathe out, namaste. Giving thanks to the earth for grounding and supporting us. So I hope that you found that useful. I often think jumping into something can be quite difficult. I think also if you've been to a class which you haven't enjoyed, or it's been too fast or too slow, or you haven't enjoyed the teacher, I often think that can really put you off ever doing a sport or practice. So hopefully explaining things a little bit more and breaking them down, knowing that you've got some choice and you have to work within your own body's limitations, or your own body's loves. You know, we all have different things that we like. So hopefully that has given you some extra information so you're able to then approach your own class, yoga person differently. Thank you.